Hi, welcome back to part 2 of my new series Unity in 5 minutes. Today we're going to be looking at getting footstep sounds that react to the terrain. I'm using Unity 2018.3.3 and I've already imported in the standard assets bundle from the assets store. I have just created a regular terrain, 25 by 25, and I have added 3 terrain layers: sand, grass and mud. I believe these textures are from the Unity particle pack bundle, also on the asset store. To get started, we're going to create a variant of the third person character controller, also gotten from the Unity standard assets bundle. So if you right click the asset, create and prefab variant, and yeah, if we just move that into somewhere we can find it. Okay, and we'll drag that into the scene. Creating a variant of a prefab was introduced in 2018.3, and it basically just means that we'll be able to add our own scripts to this prefab without affecting the original base prefab. I know there are already a lot of videos covering this topic, but I think that I'll be able to make it a bit more concise and easier to use. When researching it, I found that there was a post on Unity Answers from 2010 that said about retrieving the character's position on the terrain and getting the alpha map at that position and seeing which textures are most prominent. Now, I believe that this is still probably one of the better ways of doing this, as it's quite light on the processor, and it's also very simple. So I have went ahead and I've taken some of this code and updated it with the latest Unity API, and I have it on my GitHub that you can download. I'll leave a link in the description. So if you copy all this, and we'll create a script inside Unity called terrain sounds. Once that opens, we don't need any of this, we can just overwrite that and save. And I'll go into detail about what this means, but we'll just go back into Unity. I think I'll be able to explain it a bit better. Once that compiles, we can add the script to the third person controller. You'll see that I'm asking for a reference to the terrain, and I'm also asking for the terrain layers. Now we're using 3, you can have as many as you want, but if you do have say 20 layers and you only want to have sounds on 3, then just add 3, it will still work. Okay, now I'm actually asking for the terrain layer itself. So I have sand, I have grass, and I have mud. I have created an enum that you can just select what they are. This allows us just to look up the terrain in the C# a bit easier. You can add more to this. Grass and mud. Now the current weight, that's going to be dynamically set, and the footsteps, we'll come back to this. So now if we go to our C# code, you will see that I have a public definition for the terrain, and I have a list of a class that I've created called terrain texture definition. That was what we were adding to back in the editor. And then I have created 2 dictionaries that we use to look up the terrain layer reference at the correct enum, and I just build that up on start. But in the function get footstep sound, this is the main brain of the script that will essentially take the character's position and check that against a splat map at that location, and returning the most dominant texture based on the normalized alpha values. So if we want to test this, we can write a we could call this in a update function. So we do private void update, and we will call get footstep sound. Now I'm debugging this, so whenever we go to play, you'll see that as I'm walking around, the values are changing based on how dominant those textures are. And what we're going to do, and I think it is still probably the most accurate method, and that is calling the getFootstepSound function from an animation event whenever the character's foot hits the ground, although it's quite tedious and boring to set up, but we only have to do it once. To do that, if we click third person controller, if we click animator, you can find animator from window animation animator, and on his base layer all of the character's walking animations are in a blend tree called grounded. If we double click that, we will have to add events to all of these animations. For the purpose of this tutorial, I'm just going to add it to humanoid walk and humanoid run. To do that, if we click the humanoid walk, it will bring us in the finder window to its location. However, the animation is still in its FBX, so we need to extract it before we can edit it. To do that, if we press Ctrl D, and that was humanoid walk, but we now have to replace that in the blend tree. So if we just drag that in and replace it. Now whenever we go back into our scene view and we click third person controller variant, and we go to the animation window, which again can be got from window animation. Now whenever we choose humanoid walk, which populates based on any animation that's in the character's animator, when I drag the timeline, you'll see that the root motion becomes active and the character begins walking, but on every time he puts his foot down, we're going to add an event, and we go to function and we'll choose getFootstepSound. Now this list gets populated based on all the functions within the character's highest level classes. So we choose getFootstepSound and add it there as well. getFootstepSound, okay. Animator, run. Okay, now when we play, I click console, you see as he's walking, now it's debugging. Now we have to add sounds to play it when this event is called. So to do that, we need to create an empty game object. We'll call this player sounds, and we will just add audio sources for the 3 different textures. You can do this whatever way you wish. I'm currently using, I have 3 footstep sounds that came with the standard assets bundle. Footstep 1, 2, and 3. Now we don't want them to play on a wait because we only want to have them play whenever we tell them to. Now you're going to have to add another window. So if you right click, add an inspector window, and we'll just dock it beside it. Now if you press the lock button, that just means whenever we change in the editor, it's not going to update. Because now if you drag the audio source into each one of these, each layer that we have created. Now if we go back into the C# code, you'll see a function called play audio, and basically what it does is it just plays that assigned audio source in 2D. Ideally we would do it in 3D, have it being played from the character's feet, but that's for another video. For now, we're just playing the audio source when it happens, and as the weight, the alpha values run from 0 to 1, we could just use that for the volume so that we can have all three textures play a sound at the same time, but their volume is scaled along with the weight, so that the more dominant the texture is, the louder the footstep will be. So back into the game, whenever we press play, as the character moves across the terrain, you will hear an audio source play at the correct volume for the alpha of the texture at that position. My audio clips are not great. They don't necessarily match the texture that they're playing for. Also, I'm using audio source.play, and what that does, it stops the audio source if it's currently playing, which is likely when our character is running, as his feet hit the ground very fast. And if the audio source stops and plays again, you'll notice that the audio source cuts and plays. Essentially, we would need a buffer to sort this issue, but that I can maybe do another video on that another time. And that's essentially it. I hope this helped, and if it did, please leave a like and subscribe for more.